Well, I grew up in a neighborhood like you. I grew up in a neighborhood built around Little League baseball, banana seat bikes, science fairs, football games, skinned knees, bake sales, graduation parties, spelling bees, M-I-S-S-I-S-S-I, P-P-I, funerals and weddings. It was how we were all connected to one another. Our neighbors were second mothers, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, to us all. They were our teachers, our coaches, and our mentors. And I lived in a world where my father, silently but purposefully, weaved himself into every story in our neighborhood. He was the guy whose single-stage snowblower would run dry after every snowfall as he worked his way down the street. My father was the guy who kept the entrance to our neighborhood neatly mowed. That was our little section of the world, the first thing people saw when they came to visit us. My father was the guy who worked 2 jobs in double shifts at General Motors so he could put his 4 kids through 8 years of Catholic school each, because those were his values from his family. My father was the guy who drove us across the country every summer to let us explore, reconnect with family, and to show us what was possible. My father, he was the guy who never lectured me when he came home and saw a new piece of glass in the window that I had broken out of anger. Thanks, Dad. My dad was the guy who let me build my own Pinewood Derby car, my own car, and he celebrated with me when it came in dead last in every race. Yeah. My dad drove us to grandparents' houses every Sunday after church. He pushed me hard to decide how I was going to achieve my goals. My father's the guy who trusted me to go 500 miles away north to school to become part of a community. So there I am, student teaching, the pinnacle of my college existence. And I see some of you out there right now. We hung together. We were cool, right? So there I am, red ink flying everywhere, paper, books. I looked really smart, even if I wasn't, because I was prepping lessons. And the phone rings. It's 10 o'clock at night. It's a December night. 6 inches of snow muffled the sound of that phone. More was on the way. It was a Wednesday. It was a Wednesday night in the Upper Peninsula. The kind of night that threatened to shut down any opportunity for formal learning the next day was a storm. On the phone is Mr. Williams, our old neighbor from Livonia. And he's throttling his way through the Upper Peninsula, right, on his Arctic cat, going all over. All right, so they put on a couple 100 miles. And his snowmobile's broken. He's in Ishpeming. And he calls me and he says, "Hey, Joey, want to give me a ride?" So the ride from Ishpeming all the way to Munising was filled with stories from the good old days. Warmed my heart, and I'm glad it did, because I had a little 2-wheel drive Chevy S10, weighed about 30 pounds. Those warm stories helped melt the snow and the ice just a little bit, and at 40 miles an hour, we reminisced about the good old days. I knew what everybody was up to. And 1 a.m. comes around. We get to the hotel. Shift into reverse, back her up, wrestle that sled off the trailer, off my bedded truck, onto his trailer. The same kind of vigor that we used to use, to set up all the chairs for the graduation parties when that first shovel went into the ground so we could dig the new pool for somebody, or how we used to unload tons of newspapers for the Cub Scout fundraiser. That's how we went after moving that sled. Well, by the time I was finished, I was tired. I had to be up the next day, 7:30 a.m., bright-eyed, westward expansion, baby, 30 kids looking at me, waiting for something that would inspire them. Wagons ho. So, Christmas vacation, we'd have to catch up then. So I reach out to shake Mr. Williams' hand, and he looks me in the eye. I look him in the eye, little smile, and I pull back my gloved hand, and there is a 50 in my hand. $50, man. $50. That's groceries. That's the heating bill. That's new clothes, something not from the Vinny that I could wear to school. How cool would that be? That would buy my gas, leave me money left over to get a meal that wasn't ramen noodles or Spam. I was pumped. I looked at that 50 and I gave it back to him. And we did this dance. He gives it back to me. I felt like my grandma was there, you know. Oh, Joey, you take it, take it. No, I don't want it. Take it, right? So I gave it back to him. And he looked at me and he started laughing. I'm like, what are you laughing at, dude? I just, 4 or 5 hours we hung out together, drove, you're laughing at me? He said, I told those guys you wouldn't take it. What do you mean? Because I told them in Ishpeming at the gas station, I'm going to offer you $50 and you won't take it. No matter how hard I try, you won't do it. I'm like, really? Well, how did you know that? Because you're just like your father. And I was like, all right. Usually when people say that, I get angry. Here, I'm just like my father. Then it hit me. I'm working with kids, man. I'm working with kids in Marquette. I get to work with these kids that I see in aisle 5 at the grocery store. And here's a guy telling me I'm just like my father. What an opportunity. All that college, it helped me, believe me. But that moment brought it all together. Here was a guy saying, pay attention. You have a story. There's a little predictability, but every time we put you in a new situation, you have to access that story. It's your obligation. All my kids had stories. I wasn't teaching westward expansion. I was teaching what they knew about somebody who knew something about westward expansion, about their grandfather who once had to move from this side of town to the other, about their grandmother who came from this country over to that country and then is here. They're stories to be accessed. So I want you to think of this. I want to challenge you to stop thinking about your life as chapters. That's a lie. You're going to hear it. Graduation. You're on to the next chapter of your life. Huh? You're on to the chapter, young man, that is relationship. Huh? Oh. It's a lie. They're not chapters. They're all these stories. They're all these moments that coalesce around this opportunity, right? And that opportunity is a little crack. And all those stories, all that experience you have, that's the wedge. Shove it in there. Access every story you can get your hands on and shove it in there. That's the opportunity. That's what we're given. We have a responsibility to access that. My dad saw things. Well, how's that? If I stop there, would that make you feel a little odd? All right. My dad saw opportunity. When he cut the lawn for the entrance to our neighborhood, there was a sense of pride there. And I would bet a paycheck, well, not one of mine, one of yours. I'd bet one of your paychecks that he did that because it was a little bit bigger than him. That neighborhood, just a little bit bigger than him. Some kid sees that, and I know a kid who saw that. He's working overseas, third world country. I know what the neighborhood he works in looks like because I know he took that away. Just like we took away all the stories that we encounter every day from every single person. So the respect we earn and the opportunities and challenges that are presented to us, they're not built around one person, one event, or one group. They're there because there's an expectation that the seen and unseen legacy of our relationships, the relationships we build together, they're not novelties. You don't pull them off the shelf and stick them into slot A. They're one big story. And there's strength in that relationship. And there's momentum in those stories. And we should use that momentum to alter our plot line so that we can commit to creating something that is strikingly original.